Yeah, so I'm Will Ferrier. I'm from the Yolo County District Attorney's Office. I'm Chief of Innovation and Transparency. Jonathan Raven, who is also with us, he's our Chief Deputy, as mentioned. And so far what you've heard about some of the challenges of creating a dashboard. You've heard about some of the roadmaps and where folks are hoping these dashboards go. You've heard about empowering the representation visually of workloads within a DA's office, and also empowering data-driven decisions. And so, you know, these dashboards, they're so rich, and you know, there are like good things about dashboards, and I hope that if you see something here that you steal it with pride if you're working on a dashboard, because you know, we can all learn from each other, right? So in Yolo County, what we did was we partnered with a nonprofit out of New York, Measures for Justice. And Measures for Justice, what we have done with them, we have a relationship where we send them our data, and then the data goes through an audit process for completeness, and then they publish this. And so they own the dashboard. Whether the data is good, bad, or ugly, it gets published and it gets certified by Measures for Justice. So we don't own the data. All right, a little bit about Yolo County. So if you haven't heard of us, you don't know where we are, we're kind of in that kind of northern central California, if you will. We're about an hour and a half from San Francisco, and we're about an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours from Lake Tahoe. And in Yolo County, we have a bit of a poverty issue. Okay, so poverty in California, it sits right somewhere between 12 and 13% of the population. And in our county, we're really at 19.1, which is quite a bit above some of these other counties. And so often, and you may find this true in your jurisdictions or with DA offices that you work with, poverty negatively impacts so many times a party in a case, right? Whether it's the victim or the defendant, somehow they've been negatively impacted by poverty. And from a race perspective, we are similarly situated to the rest of California. If you were to look at, these are the race demographics here for Yolo County, but if you were to compare those to California, which is something you can do in Commons, you would see we're not that far off. All right. So just kind of moving on, these are some of the recent headlines that have been in news articles around our DA's office. And I wanted to show you some of these, but I wanted to kind of start from the beginning. And you heard this before, and that is the case management system. So our DA's office was the first office in California to go digital. And you're seeing in the upper right-hand corner there, that is Jeff Reisig, our DA. And so when you think about some of these kind of the early momentum that helps build dashboards, in my opinion, it takes a couple of things. It takes a district attorney who is brave enough to say, I'm not afraid to release all my data, right? Which is kind of refreshing. And so I celebrate all those others that are on the call that have done that. But it starts with good data. And so you have to invest in a quality case management system. Our system was built here in-house. And when we built it, what we did was we thought about the prosecutor, victim service advocates, legal secretaries, so many of the people in the office. We thought about them as like a Formula One race car driver, okay? And how can we build the case management system around them to make them as efficient and as effective as possible? And in their business processes, what were the value add portions of their business processes, and what were the non-value add, okay? And then once you remove those non-value add and you're really focused on the value add pieces of the business processes, with a case management system, you can focus on where of those value add portions, where can you automate, right? So I can't give you more attorneys, but what I can do is I can maximize the amount of time each attorney has. And so that was our approach with our case management system. And one of the things that we found in this partnership with Measures for Justice was that they had that same kind of approach, this Formula One race car driver and building the technology around the human experience. Well, they had that similar approach as it relates to the community. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Before I go to the next slide, I wanted to also mention, and this is not related to our dashboard, but we have a process in our office, almost every single case, with just the exception of a small percentage, go through a race-blind charging process. And what that means is that our prosecutors, when they first review a case, anything that potentially could give you any indication of a person's race is redacted. And so, it's something we've just launched this year. We've launched it in partnership with the Stanford Computational Policy Lab. And so hopefully in future sessions, we can dive a little deeper into that. I spoke just a moment ago about measures for justice and wrapping this kind of technology experience around human experience. And what you're seeing here in Yolo County, we have a multicultural community council. And this is a group of people. They are advocates and activists from around the community. This is just a small part of the group, standing there with Jeff, our DA, and with Jonathan, our chief deputy, who's on the line. And these folks, they come together every month to have a conversation with the DA's office. And there's no topic that's off the table, okay? And so this is, it's something that is empowering to our office, it's empowering to the community, and it gives us all a chance to have a conversation. And it doesn't mean we always agree on every topic, but we keep meeting and we keep having these conversations. And so when we built this dashboard with Measures for Justice spent a lot of time with the MCCC and other members of the community, asking them, what does a dashboard look like that serves you best? What are the data points that you're interested in? And as they built the dashboard, they would show various designs and say, how about this? Where would you expect to find this information? And so, I want to celebrate them as well and kind of give them a high five in the air, because they really did think about that human experience and ensuring that we weren't just building a spaceship, but we were empowering people to consume information no matter what level of information you're familiar with as it relates to a DA's office. And we talked about transparency. One of the features within our Commons transparency dashboard is this that you're seeing here. And so there are these 3 buttons, and these 3 buttons allow you at any place where you have data within the case management system, you can download the data, you can share the data with your social media network, and it doesn't matter how many different layers you've applied to the data point you're looking at. Whatever you're seeing, you can share that out, okay? Or you can take that link and you can send it to one of the local elected leaders, to the local police departments, to start a conversation with them about something you're seeing, and you can even send it to the local media, okay? So the mission is transparency, and so we're seeing people use this feature, by the way. All right, so in Commons, and Jonathan's going to talk to you in just a moment about a policy change that was driven by the data coming out of Commons. But within Commons, there's 3 levels of data. So what you're seeing with the number 1 there, these are cases referred to the DA's office. This is going to be over a 13-month period. It's a very basic view, right? The hope is that anybody can look at this and get an idea of what's coming in, okay? You have a button there and you can select that. And again, these are screenshots, but what that will do is that will take you to this kind of deeper view. And so you'll see the number 2 here, and that's representative. And in there, you can kind of get even deeper, right? So this gives you, again, at a glance, you can see, the different changes within a 1-year period from a felony and a misdemeanor perspective. And then if you want to go even deeper, you can click on another button. And what that will do is that will take you to cases referred, and you can look at everything from the types of crimes, the jurisdictions, race, gender, age, were they a county resident, a non-county resident? I'll show you some of that in just a minute. But the key here is that there's 3 levels, right? There's kind of a high level, a mid-level, and if you want to go deep, you can do that too. So Jonathan, do you want to just chime in and tell us about the policy change that was driven by some of this data? And you may be on mute, Jonathan.
Thank you, Will. I should know that by now after all these years. We give this tour quite often of Commons, and it's normally an hour minimum. So I know for everyone this is difficult to do in 15 minutes. I like what Stephen said. What do we do to inform our policies? And so much of it is about data. I grew up with Vin Scully, listening to him on the radio in bed because I'm from LA.
You have 5 minutes remaining.
thanks. And his voice is like mother's milk, but I disagree with him on this because what we like to say is no data, no change. So I want to talk to you very briefly about data. We do a lot with racial disparity, like all of you. And what we're finding is the major disparity is with the Black population versus the white population. We get about 13% of our cases coming in from law enforcement when our population is about 3%. Of course, we have to keep in mind that not everyone that commits crimes in Yolo County is a resident. As a matter of fact, 2/3 are not residents, but still not a good number. One of the things, but what we found is we don't see a lot of disparity once we get the case, which is a good thing. And when we proceed all the way, to sentencing and resolve a case. But one thing we did find is our numbers for our diversion programs, and we have quite a few, very robust, were low for the Black population. In our policy for diversion, if you had a felony within 1 year or a misdemeanor within 3, you were automatically excluded from the diversion programs. You didn't get to the starting line. So what we did is we took out that automatic exclusion with the hypothesis that it would have a greater impact on the Black community, meaning more people who are Black getting into our diversion programs versus the white community, because that's one of the major policy changes we made. What we see is another one is we see 20% at a given time in our jail are Black. Very, very high. Those are the arrests, of course. And we're trying to explore what is going on there and why is that happening. And it could be quite a few reasons. And the last one where we do see disparity in the DA's office is sentencing for a felony. If you are Black, you are 1.6 times more likely to go to state prison on a felony than if you are white. And the question is, why is it? Is it something we're doing? Is it also about longer criminal histories, which goes way back in time? But that's what we're exploring. So in a nutshell, those are some of the things we're doing, and we feel pretty good about what we've done and a lot more that we have to do. Thanks, Will.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. And these dashboards, they really are. I mean, they're a journey, not a destination. And so I hope that a year from now, what you're seeing from us is that much better. So it's not just about graphs, though. This is another view. So within kind of as you explore the data, you'll get in and you'll be able to see the actual numbers as well. I'm going to move through this because I know I don't have a ton of time left. I wanted to show you this breakdown. Here is a breakdown. These are cases referred to the prosecutor by race, and specifically we're looking at white, Black, and Hispanic, and we're going back to 2016. And as you can see, you've in the top right-hand corner, you have those 3 buttons. So you can go off and have a conversation, again, with your social network. You can notify the news. You can download the data and explore it even further. All right. So do me a favor, snapshot this in your mind. Cases referred to the prosecutor. This is coming in from the law enforcement agencies. So now what we're going to look at is, what do these cases look like when we prosecute them? Okay. Ready? Here we go. So this is what the cases look like, again, from a race perspective, when these cases get prosecuted. So you're seeing, almost an equilibrium here. You're going to see slight differences over time, but this is good news. I'm going to keep moving, and I want to show you cases rejected, and you're seeing something similar here. Again, the beauty of a dashboard is that you can look at these snapshots of time, and you can go and ask questions. So, for instance, if you look at a particular quarter and you see that one race is having less cases.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Less cases rejected than another. What you can do is then you can start applying additional filters. Well, where were those cases coming from? What kinds of cases were they? Right? And you can ask deeper level questions. Only two or three more slides here. So we also have the ability to look at this from a county resident versus non-resident perspective. And so this is really important because we are situated in an area where we have a couple of different major freeways that come right through our county, right? And so what's happening with crime that is occurring from a residency perspective, all right? Offense types, different offense types, so you can take a look at that. And then finally, why should we all be interested in leaning into transparency, right? So number one, and I think probably universally this is agreed upon with everybody on the line, it is certainly the right thing to do. It is probably well overdue. And so I'm so glad to see so many people, 92 people on this call right now, who are interested in this. It builds trust in the community. We are in the business of building bridges. We have to be. We have to lean into this. It gives people a chance to have a data-informed discussion, right? No matter what side of the table you're on, you have to be able to come together and have good, accurate data so that you can have an actual constructive conversation, right? And it empowers data-driven decision-making and policy-making. And we heard a little bit about that over the course of Jonathan and in one of the other presentations. And then the other part is that this accelerates continuous improvement. If you walked into a hospital today with some illness, all right, and that hospital was not making data-driven decisions about how they were going to work with you on your health, you would walk out and you would find another hospital. And so we as DA offices, we have to be in the business of continuous improvement in every single thing that we approach, right? So thank you so much.